The HOA fined me $1,000 for swimming in my own lake. My lake, deeded in my name, signed, sealed, and paid for. And the person behind this ridiculous fine? Karen Pritchard, the self-appointed queen of our neighborhood. But here's the thing Karen didn't know. I wasn't just a homeowner. I was also the HOA treasurer. And when she came after me, she picked the wrong guy to mess with. If you've ever had a power-hungry neighbor or dreamed about finally putting a bully in their place, hit that like button, subscribe, and settle in, because this is one of the most satisfying HOA revenge stories you'll ever hear. The sun was setting over Lakewood Estates, painting the sky in strokes of gold and crimson. From my dock, the water looked calm, like a sheet of glass reflecting back the world. To me, it wasn't just water, it was peace. It was the very reason I'd bought this house. My lake, my sanctuary. At least, it was supposed to be. That night, I held a crumpled letter in my fist so tight it could have torn. A letter from the HOA fining me $1,000 for swimming in my own lake. The signature at the bottom was no surprise. Karen Pritchard, HOA president, dictator of Lakewood Estates, and apparently now ruler of my property. I read the words over and over again. Unauthorized water activity poses a safety hazard. My blood boiled. I wasn't some reckless teenager doing cannonballs off the dock. I was 42, a former lifeguard. I knew that water better than anyone else in the community. But this wasn't about safety. This was about control, about Karen flexing her authority like she always did. You know the type. The kind of person who thrives on bossing others around. The kind who thinks her pastel cardigans and neatly bobbed haircut make her untouchable. She had her little clipboard, her newsletters, her smile that wasn't really a smile. It was a warning. I sat there, beer in hand, staring at my lake, trying to calm down. Pay the fine, I told myself. Let it go. Keep the peace. But then I thought about Karen's smug face, about how she'd probably brag to her little circle about putting me in my place. And the thought made my stomach turn. No, not this time. See, what Karen didn't know, what almost no one knew, was that I wasn't just a homeowner in Lakewood Estates. I was also the HOA treasurer, and I had the keys to the kingdom. And Karen had just declared war on the wrong person. Now, the next morning, I woke up before sunrise, poured myself the strongest cup of coffee I could make, and opened my laptop. I started combing through the bylaws and financial records, and what I found was even better than I hoped. Karen had overstepped big time. The bylaws she cited, it only applied to public amenities, things like the community pool and park. My lake wasn't part of the HOA. I checked when I bought the place. I had the deed, signed and stamped. She had no authority here. But instead of just emailing her back and pointing that out, I decided to do something better. Something that would make her think twice before messing with me again. The monthly HOA meeting was always the same. A dull gathering in the community clubhouse. The walls were beige, the fluorescent lights buzzed like angry bees, and the folding chairs squeaked under the weight of bored neighbors. Karen stood at the front, clipboard in hand, acting like she was running the United Nations instead of a suburban HOA. Her voice cut through the air, sharp and smug. First order of business, landscaping updates. Second, mailbox compliance. I barely heard her. My laptop was open, my spreadsheet glowing back at me. I'd spent all week preparing. When she finally opened the floor for new business, I raised my hand. Her eyes narrowed immediately. She didn't like me. Never had. To her, I was a thorn in her side, the guy who asked too many questions, who never fell in line. "Yes, Mr. Daniels," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. I stood up slowly, letting the room settle. "I'd like to discuss the recent fine you issued against me for swimming in my own lake." The room went quiet. Even Tom, the retired accountant who usually slept through half the meetings, sat up. Linda, the yoga instructor, looked uncomfortable. Mike, the car salesman, leaned forward like he was watching a soap opera. Karen's lips pursed. "The lake is within community boundaries. That makes it subject to HOA oversight." "No," I said calmly, pulling a folder from my bag. "Here's the paperwork. You can't fine me for using land I own." Her face flushed red. "Regardless, it's a safety hazard." "That's not what the bylaws say," I replied, projecting my spreadsheet on the wall. "But if you want to talk about bylaws, let's talk about money." I clicked to the next slide. Numbers filled the screen. Every questionable expense I'd uncovered. The fountain she had installed at the entrance, $2,000. Personalized HOA stationery, $500. A holiday party no one attended, $1,200. The other board members leaned forward. Murmurs rippled through the room. And then I dropped the bomb. The HOA currently has a surplus of $12,000, and as treasurer, I'd like to propose reallocating it into a mandatory maintenance fee increase. Let's say $5,000 per household. Gasps! Outrage! Tom sputtered, nearly choking on his water. Linda whispered, "That would bankrupt people." Even Mike stopped smirking. Karen turned purple. "You can't do that," she screeched. "Oh, but according to the bylaws," I said, holding up the book, "I can propose it. And since you've set the precedent of fining residents without cause, it seems only fair." Her jaw clenched. She opened her mouth to argue, but the other board members were already turning against her, whispering among themselves. For the first time, Karen wasn't in control. I didn't need the vote. I didn't even need the fee increase. The threat was enough. Karen knew it, and so did everyone else in that room. By the next morning, I got an email from Karen. The fine was rescinded, she said, chalking it up to a misunderstanding. But I knew better. She was scared, and she should have been. Because I wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, I kept digging. Every shady contract, every reimbursement to her brother-in-law's landscaping company, every little luxury she'd slipped through the budget. Piece by piece, I started leaking it anonymously into the neighborhood group chat. Screenshots, documents, receipts. People were furious. The same neighbors who used to nod politely at Karen now saw her for what she really was, a fraud. By the time the next board election rolled around, Karen didn't stand a chance. She was voted out, replaced by Linda, sweet, peace-loving Linda, who promised transparency and yoga classes for all. And me? I stayed treasurer, just to keep things clean. That summer, I swam in my lake every single evening. The water felt colder, sharper, cleaner somehow. Maybe it was just me. Maybe it was the taste of victory. Either way, every time I dove under, I thought of Karen, probably fuming in her pastel cardigan, powerless at last. And let me tell you, revenge has never felt so refreshing. Karen humiliated in front of the board. Fine rescinded. Secrets exposed. Neighbors turn on her. Election loss equals ultimate downfall. Some people think power makes them untouchable, but the truth is, power without accountability crumbles fast. Karen thought she owned my lake, my life, and this community. In the end, she lost it all. And me? I got my peace back with every stroke I take across the water. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, what's the pettiest thing an HOA or neighbor has ever tried to pull on you? And don't forget to subscribe for more stories where karma comes back harder than anyone expected.